Imagine discovering that you successfully manifested one of the biggest victories of your life, years before you even knew what manifestation was. No affirmations, no vision boards, no knowledge of Neville Goddard or the law of assumption. Just one simple shift in focus that completely changed the outcome. What's even more incredible is that this same principle can be applied to every area of your life. So stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why so many people unknowingly manifest their reality every single day. Welcome back to Real Life Manifestations, the channel where we explore real manifestation stories, timeless principles, and practical lessons that anyone can apply. Today's story comes from someone who unknowingly practiced one of Neville Goddard's most powerful teachings long before they had ever heard of manifestation. As always, this is someone else's real experience, shared so that we can all learn from it. Let's get into it. Years ago, this person decided to step into the world of Muay Thai. Looking back, it's almost hard for them to believe how much their life changed because of one conversation. Before they ever entered a gym, they weren't athletic. They weren't confident. In fact, they described themselves as an overweight person with almost zero self-confidence. They had never competed in combat sports or anything remotely similar. The idea of stepping into a ring in front of spectators would have seemed impossible. But something inside them wanted to change. So they committed themselves to training. Day after day, week after week, month after month. The training wasn't glamorous. It was physically exhausting, mentally draining, and often painful. They even joked that they literally had the fat beaten out of them during those years of training. Slowly, though, something remarkable happened. Not only did their body transform, but so did their mindset. Then one day, their coach made a decision. Without much warning, he signed them up for their very first Muay Thai fight. What should have been an exciting milestone instantly became a source of overwhelming fear. Instead of feeling proud, they were terrified. The next 9 weeks became an intense fight camp. They trained harder than they ever had before, and something about the experience made the pressure even heavier. Professional fighters at the gym, people preparing for their own upcoming fights, voluntarily gave up their own time to coach them. These weren't beginners. These were experienced athletes with their own goals and responsibilities, yet they still chose to invest their energy into helping someone preparing for a first fight. Instead of feeling encouraged, that generosity became another source of anxiety. They began thinking, what if I let everyone down? What if all this time they've invested in me goes to waste? What if I embarrass myself in front of everyone? As the weeks passed, stress became overwhelming. Every single day, they imagined failure. They replayed scenes of losing. They pictured themselves getting completely outclassed. They imagined disappointing their coach, disappointing their teammates, embarrassing themselves in front of everyone who believed in them. The closer fight day came, the louder those thoughts became. 4 weeks before the event, they reached a breaking point. They seriously considered withdrawing from the fight altogether. In their mind, it seemed better to quit now than to walk into what they believed would be an inevitable humiliation. Before making that decision, they opened up to one of the more experienced fighters at the gym. They admitted everything. They explained how every time they thought about the fight, all they could see was themselves losing. They couldn't picture success. All they imagined was defeat. They told him they didn't believe they were good enough. They felt they would disappoint everyone who had spent weeks helping them prepare. And because of that, they thought maybe the smartest thing to do was simply pull out. The experienced fighter listened patiently. Then he gave advice that would stay with them for the rest of their life. He told them to forget about the fight. Forget about trying to repay everyone who had helped them. Forget about worrying whether people would be disappointed. Forget about the possibility of embarrassment. Then he said something incredibly simple. Nobody cares. He explained that everyone at the gym already respected them simply because they had the courage to step into the ring. That alone had earned their respect. Nothing else needed to be proven. Then came the advice that unknowingly introduced them to manifestation. He told them that from that day until they stepped into the ring, they should focus on only one thing. Every morning, every afternoon, every night, close your eyes and imagine all of us together at the fight venue. Me, your coach, the rest of the fighters. Imagine us celebrating. He specifically told them not to focus on whether it was after their own fight or someone else's. That detail didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the feeling. Imagine everyone feeling incredibly proud. Imagine the happiness. Imagine the excitement. Imagine thanking everyone for believing in you. Imagine hugging each person. Imagine buying everyone beers afterward. Most importantly, don't just see it. Feel it. Feel so much happiness that it almost chokes you up. Feel so light that it seems like you're floating. Experience that moment so vividly that you wish it would never end. That was all they had to do. No obsessing over the fight. No imagining punches. No analyzing opponents. No replaying failure. Just return to that single emotional scene over and over again. So they listened. Every morning, they imagined the celebration. Every afternoon, they returned to the feeling. Every night before sleeping, they replayed the exact same scene. Little by little, something began to change. The fear started losing its grip. The anxiety wasn't completely gone, but it no longer controlled every waking thought. Instead of constantly rehearsing failure, they were rehearsing gratitude. Instead of living in defeat, they were emotionally living in victory. Without realizing it, they had stopped feeding the version of reality they feared and started feeding the version they actually wanted to experience. Finally, fight night arrived. There was no magical certainty. No sudden feeling of being invincible. They simply stepped into the ring and let everything unfold. Standing across from them was an opponent who seemed superior in almost every way. He was bigger. He was younger. He was technically better. On paper, this looked like an uphill battle. But something surprising happened. Throughout the fight, they kept disrupting their opponent's rhythm. Again and again. They managed to trip him. They swept him multiple times. They stayed composed. Point after point, they built enough of an advantage. When the final decision was announced, they had won the fight on points. The victory itself was incredible. But what happened afterward became the moment they would remember forever. Exactly as they had imagined for 4 weeks. Their coach was there. Their teammates surrounded them. Everyone was celebrating. There were hugs, smiles, words of congratulations. Gratitude filled the air. The happiness they experienced in that moment was overwhelming. It wasn't just excitement. It was something much deeper. They described it as one of the purest moments of joy they had experienced since childhood. It became one of the core memories of their entire life. Years later, they discovered Neville Goddard and began learning about manifestation. They learned about living in the end. They learned about feeling the wish fulfilled. They learned that imagination, when combined with genuine emotion, impresses the subconscious mind. And suddenly, everything clicked. They realized they had already experienced this principle years earlier, without even knowing it. They hadn't visualized winning the fight. They hadn't obsessed over becoming the champion. They hadn't tried to force the outcome. Instead, they completely immersed themselves in the feeling that naturally would have followed the fulfillment of their desire. The celebration, the gratitude, the pride, the joy. That emotional state became more real than the fear. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson hidden inside this story. So many people spend their days rehearsing everything they don't want to happen. They imagine failure, rejection, embarrassment, loss, Without realizing it, they're emotionally living in the very reality they hope to avoid. But Neville Goddard taught something radically different. He taught that your imagination is the true creative power. The outer world follows the inner world. Your dominant state of consciousness eventually expresses itself as your physical experience. This story is a perfect reminder of that principle. Notice that the experienced fighter never told them to obsess over techniques or strategies. He never said to imagine every punch landing perfectly. He simply directed their attention to the emotional end result, the feeling of already having succeeded. Because once your inner world changes, your actions naturally begin to align with that new identity. Maybe you've been doing exactly what this fighter was doing before that conversation. Maybe you've been rehearsing disappointment instead of fulfillment. Maybe you've been imagining everything going wrong. If that's the case, ask yourself one simple question. What emotional movie have I been playing in my mind every single day? Because whatever scene you repeat with feeling eventually becomes familiar to your subconscious. And what becomes familiar often becomes your reality. Perhaps today is the perfect day to stop rehearsing fear and start rehearsing fulfillment instead. If you enjoyed this real-life manifestation story and the lesson behind it, make sure to subscribe to Real Life Manifestations and turn on notifications so you never miss another inspiring success story. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment below and let us know what part stood out the most, or share an experience where you unknowingly manifested something in your own life. Your story could inspire someone else. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, the reality you consistently experience in your imagination today may become the reality you live tomorrow. Until next time, keep assuming the best, keep living in the end, and keep manifesting your dream life.